Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Book Talk with Cara. Today, I have my friend Christina Suzann Nelson here, and we're going to talk about her brand new book, which I am so excited to share with you because it's coming out at the end of August. Orange is the Color of Goodbye, which I think is such a beautiful title. And I want to talk about that because titling, I think, is so challenging. But before we get into that, I want to start because this is your first time here, which when I've got over 200 episodes, that's not always easy to get someone who is a first time guest. So, welcome. It's great to have you here. But, Christina, as we get started talking about this, you're a Christie and Carol Award winning author, and you write what I would call like women's fiction, but your tagline really kind of pulls it all together because it's hope in a world of trauma.
Mhm.
And as we're recording this, just like in the last 24 hours, there have been several headlines like a truck going through a crowd in Berlin and a shooting in Seattle. And then I just heard of another shooting and like all these things where it'd be so easy to like be like the world's imploding and falling apart and where's God and all this. How do you write books that dig into the mess of life without losing your hope?
I think because I've seen it so many times. I've
Yeah.
seen people thrive after trauma. I've had my own experiences where uh, it just having somebody in your corner and pointing you towards God, um, that that can be life changing. We adopted five of our six kids, four of those from foster care, and I've seen
Mhm.
my kiddos come from really tough situations and then thrive. And I've seen them do amazing things. And so, there is always hope. We can always we can always change the
Yeah.
direction and the course that we're on. It's not one one circumstance, one bad choice,
Yeah.
one awful situation outside of your control is not life defining. God has plans to work through those situations. So that's part of my story. It's part of the stories I see all around me. So it makes sense that it's part of my writing.
And I think that that's so important. And um, I tend to write stories that have overlays of that depending on the book. And it can be hard to write those because you have to walk through the journey to really do it authentically. You
Mhm.
have to kind of crawl through that with the characters, or else it's going to feel fluffy and not real. And to do it in a way that honors people who do experience those journeys, you have to crawl into the darkness and the ick, to then be able to point to the reality of light that is and hope that is available. So when you think of this book, Orange is the Color of Goodbye, I mean, you've got, I'm just looking at like the synopsis, the back cover copy for this. You know, there's been cancer treatments for a young son. Then her estranged mother calls and is dying. I mean, you've just got this poor heroine who's just being like smacked by life. Why would you even want to go there? Because just one would be enough to put most of us on our knees. But then to have these multiple like things coming at you, that's a lot. And
It is.
so how did this come to you? What was the what if that made the story come to life in your heart and your mind?
So actually the story came out of I've been putting off writing this one for a few years
Yeah.
because I didn't want to go there. But a few years ago, I was scrolling through Instagram as we sometimes do,
Oh,
and
never, never, ever.
no,
You know,
no,
like 25 minutes later, I'm like, I just came on to look at one thing.
what happened?
Exactly.
So I hit upon this video from a hospice worker, and she was
Mm,
talking about how families come into those last days expecting reconciliation and change
mm,
on the part of the person who's at the end of their life, and that those last days often instead accentuate the personality and the the dysfunction that's always been there. They actually just get bigger. And so instead of getting this beautiful reconciliation or this apology that they're hoping for, right, they get more of the same and sometimes even stronger versions of that.
Ugh.
Just in some ways, that was very freeing for me.
Yeah.
And in other ways, I mean, because it changed expectations, but in other ways, it just really had me thinking about this and how hard that would be to still be hoping for that, to still be hoping for that connection. And I think with mothers and daughters, we're always looking for that connection, right? You know, we want so much to have such a strong connection with our mothers and with our daughters. And when that is missing, it is such a huge void.
Yeah.
So what does that look like when a mother is facing the end of her life? And how does a daughter who's been hurt so deeply, how does she honor her mother? What does that mean? And so,
Mm.
so that was the kind of the questions that led me to this
Yeah.
story, but I put it off for a few years because I didn't want to do it.
Well, because
And then,
that's such a powerful relationship. And for, like, I'm blessed to have a really strong relationship with my mom. But even saying that, it's not perfect. So then when you take someone where it's been fractured and
yes,
all the pain that that entails, it's so easy to imagine how that would just wound someone and the brokenness that would be in place. And then you get to the end of life with these expectations that may not be realistic
yeah,
and the added wounds that would be added onto that.
yeah.
So, where did you come up with orange as the color of goodbye? Is it just because it's in between? Red is like anger and all the hot emotions, and yellow is hope and joy? Or is that me reading too much into it? Or,
I'm going to say that's exactly it, but that would be me lying.
okay,
Um, it's
because
just
it's beautiful.
so I am usually horrible at titling. I and publishers are most of the time will change my titles
Yeah.
usually dramatically. But this one just came to me, and then it just played into the story because the story starts with this sign on the house that is the county condemning the house basically, and it's an orange
Ooh.
sign.
Oh,
And
yeah.
the beginning of that. And the mother, the whole way through the story, is wanting this orange box that's somewhere in this huge mess that the daughter's digging through looking for this orange box. And then, you know,
The
orange is,
hoarding. How do we find that one thing?
but orange is also marigolds. And you plant marigolds in a place
Mm,
and been dry and messy, that beauty that comes up. Um, so that
yeah.
became the title. And yeah,
Oh, that fits. That is still a beautiful way for it to represent all the things going on during
yeah,
the goodbye. So, um, when you think about it, there's like this theme of hopeful reconciliation that may or may not happen. We don't have to give the story away, but there's end of life themes. So, as a writer, how do you handle the emotional weight of writing books like this? Because there is a heaviness.
yeah,
I think if you're doing it right, there's a cost to
yes.
writing books that deal with themes like this. I've been telling people I want my next series to be light, more of a caper, because this last book was heavy. And I'm like, I need something light to kind of counterbalance it. Your books tend to be more all like in this heavier thread. How do you do that? How do you carry that emotional weight?
Well, I do have a pen name where I write these crime mysteries, and they are such a relief for me after I finish one of these books.
Yeah.
Um, I'll be really honest. I see a therapist every couple weeks, and
Hmm.
we have walked through. There are a lot of personal aspects of this story for me, and so
Yeah.
we really worked through that because anytime I write one of these stories, there's a bit of healing that'll happen within me
Hmm.
in the writing process. But to get to the healing, just like the character, even if the character has nothing to do with my own life, but to get to the healing for the character, she has to go through the darkness.
Yeah.
to get to the light. I go through that darkness too, and it can be really heavy
Yeah.
and exhausting. So it really helps to have someone where I just sit down every other week and say, and she'll say, okay, how is the book? How are
Yeah.
you with where the book is? And we talk through things. We had early on in the writing of this book, I really hit a wall with I I wrote the character in there. She was in the hospital, but I could not make her open the door. I just couldn't make her
Mm.
open the door because I knew as soon as she opened that door, it was going to get real. And so, it took a
Yeah.
while. It takes me so much longer to write one of these books than it does a mystery
Yeah.
because, I can knock out a mystery and it is so much fun. And the process is amazing and I love it. I also love this, but in a whole different way. And this is a much slower process too.
That makes so much sense to me because I don't write women's fiction like you do, but I do write suspense that sometimes will have these deeper themes in it. And there's a different push to get through the ones that deal with the heavier issues than the ones that I would call more straight legal suspense with romance or romantic suspense, where it's like it's just a puzzle and a story and the characters are good and it there might be those points where I'm like, okay, this is tricky and I've got to deal with a plot issue or whatever, but it's different from that heaviness that you have to push through and the weight of figuring out what is going on. Now, most of the time when I've written about like domestic violence or sexual abuse or something like that, it's not something that someone immediately adjacent to me has experienced. But every once in a while, it'll be someone like 2 degrees of separation or close enough that I can imagine it happening to someone, like very closely in my circle. But it's never been super duper close. But if it had been something closer, then, or my story, it would be even that much harder. So I can imagine, oh, that's
Yeah.
so wise to have a therapist that you're working through when this is something that you write consistently versus 3 or 4 books out of 50.
Yeah.
I can't even imagine. So when you're um when you're writing, because you've got these two sides to who you are, how do you balance them? Do you write like these women's fiction titles and then your fun mysteries, or are you writing them simultaneously? Because I've had times where I'd be writing a romantic suspense and a guidepost mystery and a historical, like all at the same time. Like they'd be due in back-to-back months. Have you done that, or do you space them?
Have this weird stagger. So I'm I'm writing a mystery over here, but I'm editing a women's fiction at the same time, and I'm launching
Yes.
something over here. So there's there is always this balance of these stories, and I
And then
feel
you're
like
looking at the back cover going, who are these characters that I'm launching? At least that's what I have to do.
it does. Sometimes it just feels like I am bouncing from world to world all of
Yes.
the time, and it's constantly changing. And as soon as I finished writing Orange Is the Color of Goodbye, I jumped into writing the Marley Madison mystery prequel. It was like I think a day later.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so
So
you're gonna have to tell us what's your pen name for the mysteries.
oh, it's really tricky. It's C.S. Nelson.
Oh, so tricky. I don't think I can remember that. Oh
And
gosh,
nobody can tell it's me.
not at all. I love that though. That's so smart because normally I don't know that people need pen names, but these are different enough that it does kind of make sense to be able to separate them out so that people who love your women's fiction can know, okay, Christina Suzann Nelson versus people who love your mystery, but are like, I personally don't read a lot of women's fiction because I'm like what I teach and just the world at large is kind of heavy enough. I'm like, I don't need that in my fun reading. But give me a mystery any day, and I'm like, I am here for it. And so I'd probably lean more towards, in general, the CS Nelson. But you've won a ton of awards with these Christina Suzann Nelson books. So hats off to you. That's amazing. So when you think about this book, because book clubs tend to like these kind of books, which
Yeah.
might explain why I'm not in a book club now that I think about it. But is there like a theme or a question that if they chose orange is the color of goodbye, that you would be like, this is something that I really would love to sit in and listen to them talk about or wrestle with?
Yes. So that comes down to I would ask, or I would love to hear them answer, what does Eden owe her mother? And what does it look like to honor a parent um, without allowing that parent to continue to harm you?
Oh
So,
gosh.
yeah. So that was
Yeah.
really the question throughout the whole story is what does it look like to honor your
Yeah. Yeah.
but
And that's such a
boundaries?
it's such a deep question. And especially when they've harmed you or
Mhm.
hurt you. Um, and it sounds like in this one it was a little more intentional, but a lot of times it's not intentional. It's people doing the best they can,
And
because I'm always telling my kids, I'm like, I have so much more grace for my parents now that my kids are hitting young adulthood than I did when I was a young adult because I'm like, now I understand. I'm like, I did the best I could, but I know I wasn't perfect. And then there are those who are just bad parents. But I'm like, I did the best I could. And I know I did things that if I could go back, I would do them differently. But I didn't intentionally harm you. But man, I've had to ask them for forgiveness. I've had to pray for God to cover over what I did because I was doing the best I could with what I knew at the time. And, and then you're like, and then there are the people who are just terrible parents who don't care. And you're like, oh, how do you honor them? You know,
that even those terrible parents, there's a story back there.
yeah.
And that story, the Eden story, is the mystery
Yeah.
that a bit of a mystery.
Why?
There's always a bit of mystery in my stories,
Yeah.
even fiction. But cover, she needs to uncover what made her mother like this.
Yeah.
What is
What's,
what's the backstory that she never had a chance to know? And I think
yeah,
sometimes even in the worst situations, when we know a bit of what happened before, we're able to have more compassion. Most of my books are really they come down to how do we have empathy for the
yeah,
people in our world, because there's so much brokenness in the world around us, and how do we learn about these different situations so we can walk beside someone else?
I love that. And that's one of the things fiction's so good at is helping us feel that empathy for people who are walking journeys we haven't and hopefully never will in your case. But it helps us to put ourselves in those shoes and start feeling what it would be like if we were to do that. Okay, so now for the lightning round. Three
Right.
words for the book's feel.
Messy, genuine, and hopeful.
Oh, I like that. Messy,
So
genuine, and hopeful.
a hoarder's house, it is a mess,
Yeah,
but messy, and the relationship is messy. Everything is messy. Genuine, because when I write these stories, I really want them to be true to
yeah,
a person's experience. But it's hopeful because there is always hope.
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Um, One trope you embraced or one you subverted, whichever one you want to answer. And maybe there's not a trope.
Well, so there's always a trope, even when we don't realize there's a trope when
Yeah.
we're writing it. It's not until you're done writing the book that you look at, oh,
And
there's
you're like, oh, there it is.
the return and uncovering family secrets trope
Yeah.
would definitely be the trope in this book, as she's uncovering all sorts of family secrets that she had no idea about. Um, but that whole deathbed reconciliation, that's one that I try to stay away from. This
Yeah.
isn't, yeah, I don't write books that are unrealistic. They're hopeful, but they're
Yes.
not unrealistic.
Which I love how you phrase that because that always drives me crazy, particularly in romance, but just in general. I'm like, life is messy.
Yeah.
So books need to have a little of that because it's just messy.
Yeah.
Readers who love this book or movie will also love Orange is the Shade of Goodbye or Color of
So
Goodbye.
I'm always going to go back to this. For some reason, my books, I think, are very comparable to the television show This Is Us.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, if you like This Is Us, if you really enjoyed that series, you should pick up a Christina Suzann Nelson book. Any of them,
Yeah.
probably.
Oh, see, and that's perfect because everybody will be like, oh, I know exactly what you're talking about. I know the vibe. What are your three favorite books of all time?
Okay, that is the hardest
I
question.
know, isn't it?
So
I
I
get to
don't.
ask the questions.
I read. I don't read a whole lot of physical books anymore because my eyes are on a screen or on
Yeah.
books all day long. So when I get to the end of the day, I'm like, my eyes are tired. So I listen to a lot of audiobooks. And when I say
Yeah.
a lot of audiobooks, I listen to at least a couple hundred a year.
Oh,
I
wow. I feel good when I get to 130 a year.
I listen to so many audiobooks. Like as soon as I get in the car, audiobook.
Yeah.
As soon as I start cleaning something up, audiobook. When I go to sleep, audiobook. Because if I don't listen to an audiobook when I go to sleep, I start working on my own stories and then I stay up half the night. So I was thinking about this, what are my favorite books? And I can come up with like three of my favorite authors. I love
Okay, that works.
Ariel Lawhon.
Okay.
Uh, I love William K. Kruger. I love Susie Finkbeiner, but I also love like 75 other authors. I loved Night Road. That is a book. It's a Kristen Hanna book.
Yeah.
It stuck with me,
Yeah.
and it
I
is
know.
since I read that. Yeah, All Manner of Things by Susie Finkbeiner really stuck with me. I love great memoirs.
Yeah.
Sound of Gravel. I mean, I picked that up because the title was so amazing. Um,
See, you just love words. You love words and books. So, what's
oh,
your favorite word? Can you
oh,
believe I'm asking that question?
that is a hard question, and I think probably family,
Oh, yeah.
because I mean, for me, family means restoration.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't grow up really in um, the easiest situations a lot of times, but
Yeah.
I have these great six kids, and now I have two granddaughters, and they are the light of my life. So it's been so healing to just, yeah, I love it. It's so beautiful.
Okay, so we're going to end there because we're at time. But where can readers discover all your books and you? How can they stay connected with you, Christina?
ChristinaSuzanneNelson.com is my website. Make sure you don't put an E on the end of Suzanne. And you can buy my books wherever books are sold. If you buy, if you pre-order Orange is a Color of Goodbye from my website, you have these really cool little surprises that you get to open along the way. So as you're
Oh,
reading, there's
fun.
symbols in the book and they match symbols on the envelopes. And there's 4 different envelopes that you get to open and actually get a little something that is happening in the book.
Oh my gosh. What a great idea.
I'm really excited about it.
I
I am
love it.
really excited about this.
Okay, that's so fun. All right, well, thank you so much for joining me today. It was so fun to have you on. And Orange is the Color of Goodbye is Christina Suzann Nelson's next book. And she also writes mysteries as C.S. Nelson. So you can check her out on her website, but that pre-order special on her website sounds pretty amazing. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Cara.